All right, question for you. So, well, both of us, I guess. Opinion and thoughts on squatting every day.
No bueno.
Why?
I mean, coming from a strongman standpoint, I only squat heavy probably once or twice a month, heavy. Not so much because of my legs, but because of my arms. My upper body just gets beat up. And I know you've been talking about this because you just switched to a new program where you're squatting more often. And it beats up your elbows and your shoulders pretty badly.
Yep. So I have never, when you ask squatting every day, I don't know if you literally mean 6 or 7 days a week or if you just mean every training session. But I can only shed light on my experience and then what some of the other members of the gym do. I have never squatted more than 3 days a week, and that's currently what I'm doing, squatting 3 days a week. And my legs feel fine, my body feels fine, the weights don't feel particularly heavy, my CNS is not fried, but my elbows are fucking killing me. And so that's my limiting factor. I need to figure something out, whether it's adjusting my grip or whatnot, but that's really what's bothering me right now is elbows. Some people have shoulder or wrist problems. But let's take a look at it, because I think this question gets asked so much. When you look at why someone would squat every day, 5 or 6 days a week, the main two reasons would be to get better at the lift. If you do something every day, you're bound to get better at it. So it's a lot of practice with the movement. And then also, it's a great way to acquire lots of volume at a higher intensity. So for example, if you're squatting once a week, 5 sets of 10, that's 50 total reps. Or you could squat 5 or 6 days a week, spread out those 50 reps throughout the week, doing sets of 3 or maybe sets of 5. And because you're handling 3s and 5s, the tonnage is gonna be higher than if you're doing 5 sets of 10. So I guess it's a great way to acquire volume and intensity. With that, some of the members who do squat 5 or 6 days a week, I know that one of them had to drop down to 3 days a week because he was having knee problems. One of them tore some connective tissue. Another guy threw his back out. So I don't know if that can be credited to squatting 6 days a week, but the potential for injury, the risk of injury, definitely goes up when you're squatting at a high intensity multiple times a week. So in closing, I think that, I'm sure Brian can attest to this, if you are gonna squat 5 or 6 days a week, I think that you need to be very proficient in the squat. Usually people who do it with success, squatting multiple times a week with success, are built to squat. They're very proficient at the lift, and it's kind of effortless. If you are learning how to squat, if you have ugly squat form, I don't suggest squatting heavy 5 or 6 days a week because you're going to hurt yourself. The way I kind of think about it is like a marathon runner. Some people genetically are built to handle 100 miles a week. If you're 6'5", 285 pounds, and you've got horrible running mechanics, and you've got an ugly gait, you're not gonna be able to run a marathon multiple times a week. That's that. There's nothing you can do about it. So I hate to go back to the genetics, but people who can squat 6 days a week, like elite level weightlifters, are usually built in a way that allows them to do that.
And also I think it's really important you gotta figure it out for yourself, man. Like there's certain people, like with a lot of the questions that we receive, people want to know specifics, but it's not a across the board answer. So there's some people who can squat 5, 6 days a week and see amazing results. And if that's you, I think that's awesome. That's not me, it's not him. Like it just is what it is. So I think it's really, really important to try to figure out what your work capacity is, what you're capable of, work up to that limit, kind of go past that limit so that you find out what is too much for you, and then drop back to what is manageable and what you'll see gains on. But to be completely honest, a lot of people get involved in something like a squat everyday program, and then they'll either take it too far too quickly, and then they'll burn out or get hurt and they'll drop out, or they just won't squat enough, or they're trying to follow a template to the exact specifications of what someone said. But honestly, it's not that easy. Everyone's built different. Alan's built differently than I am. We're both built differently than you. So what's gonna work for me may not necessarily work for him or work for you, and you need to spend a lot of time figuring out exactly what works for you. I know combined we have like 50 years of training experience. Like, it's a considerable amount of time. He knows exactly what he can get away with and what he can't get away with, and same with me. And a lot of people who ask questions like this have been lifting for maybe a year or 2 years, and the bottom line is, man, like, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to see gains right now. There is no reason to get too deep into the weeds with any of this right now. You really just need to get in, get under the bar, eat a bunch of food, and make sure you get your recovery in. If you do those things, in 5 years, you're gonna stand back and look at the person you are and be like, wow, I can't believe how well squatting every day worked for me, or how well 5-3-1 worked, or how well whatever. And a lot of people will attribute that to the program, but it wasn't necessarily the program, it was the fact that you just went in and you did the work.
Yep.
And really, at the level that both of us are at, we need to be a little bit more specific and care about a couple things. But to be completely honest, it's still not even that specific, at least where I'm at. You know what I mean? I can still, my stuff is very, very basics, and I think the basics are where basic mass and basic strength are built. Like, if you get too deep into it, you end up spending more time thinking about what could happen or should happen, and then you get almost the result that you have researched and you think is going to happen. So if somebody says, squatting every day worked great for me, and you go in and it doesn't work for you, then you're like, no, that doesn't work. Well, it doesn't necessarily work,
right,
or it doesn't work, it didn't work for you. And so I think a lot of this just comes down to you figuring out, you treating your body like a lab rat and figuring out exactly what your best plan is. And sometimes that might take you a decade, and no one wants to wait a decade for things anymore. But that's how good things are made. It takes time. And it's a little bit frustrating as coaches to have people come in and be like, but I want to squat 600 pounds in 6 months. And I'm like, well, what's your squat right now? And if they say 225, I'm like, let me get my wand.
275.
It's not conceivable. Like, you just don't have time under the bar. In fighting, we call it mat time, right? So you can't beat mat time. There's certain guys who grew up wrestling since they were 5 years old, and they may not know all the techniques of a person who has been training for 10 years in jiu-jitsu, but you can't beat the mat time. Like, they've just spent more time on the mat, and when it translates over to lifting heavy things, it's just time spent under the bar.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Your experience is going to be more valuable than any YouTube video you watch or any article on T Nation. So
that's it. Watch our videos. That's important. Our videos.
Just
we'll
ours.
get you the squat.
That's it.
600 pounds, 2 weeks. Guaranteed.